to Expired Musings podcast. My name is Raghat.
And my name is Aman, and this is where all our thoughts go to die.
So have fun!
Please do. Welcome back, everybody.
Why do you have that little smile on your face earlier? What were you laughing at?
Because while you were doing the intro, I accidentally was moving this around and I was breathing heavily and I was like, oh God, I have to edit out me going as Raghat's like, hi, welcome back. Okay, guys. Hi, guys. Welcome back to part 2 of the Palestinian resistance. We really hope you enjoyed part 1, which was a little bit more, I guess, it was more of a rant or maybe an in-depth about our feelings and our current thoughts and opinions about the situation that is still going on currently. We definitely kind of losing some momentum and we are feeling a little bit discouraged. So we're hoping that this second episode will be able to give you guys a little boost if you need it. It definitely gave us a boost.
Yeah, the first episode was so much fun to record because not only do we get to talk about our perspectives as Palestinians, but we were able to basically just get everything off our chest because a lot of things have been upsetting us the past several weeks, whether it's things that we've been seeing at protests, whether it's things we're seeing within celebrities, whether it's social media presence. There's so much that we've just been carrying, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have felt the same way. So it was really refreshing for us. Also, when you're mentioning the whole losing momentum thing, the first thing that comes to mind, Mark Ruffalo, he literally came out today, or not today, whenever, saying, oh, I guess it's not genocide. Sorry. It didn't seem like him, and we know it's not him. But it's just disappointing when you see money and power eventually has its way with people.
No, it's definitely it sounded like such a PR statement forced on him by Disney. And, it's upsetting because Mark Ruffalo has actually been pro-Palestine for a really long time. This isn't his first rodeo. But that's what I was trying to say is that all this attention that we've been getting from celebrities and people, I guess, in the limelight is wonderful, but it doesn't amount to the kind of importance we should give Palestinians speaking about their own case, about their own struggle. That was why Raghan did the last episode, is to kind of make sure that the focus remains on Palestinians. So with that in mind, I guess we can talk a little bit about last week's episode. I don't know if you guys remember, but I mentioned Santiago and finding a husband in Santiago last episode. And by some miracle, we checked the stats and we have one new listener from Santiago, guys. Hello, if you're listening, are you a young, handsome man in need of a Palestinian wife? You have choices here. You have me or Raghat. If you like your hijabi, if you like your non-hijabi, you have options, please.
Wow, you actually included me in this one. You didn't just hog him all for yourself. Yeah, you have your options. Would you like, I hate this.
You said him as if we don't know if this person, it could be a dog. We don't even know what kind, it could be an alien. Miss Thing.
Hey, a girl can dream. Actually, you can have your Chilean boyfriend because I've had my heart in Ireland for the longest time now.
I'm the one that has had her heart in Ireland. How dare you steal my fantasy? Guys, I've been telling Raghat about this fantasy of mine about wearing a prairie dress and, it's raining and I'm running with my hair wild in the wind in the suburbs of Ireland, I guess, Dublin, I don't know. And then I stumble upon a gated house and I need to use the phone because my phone's all out of battery, and I ring the bell and this beautiful, beautiful young Irishman.
Why are you some peasant girl? Why do you have no money? And why does your phone suddenly work in this time period? What are you trying to...
And that's why you're not allowed to have an Irishman. Only I am. Anyways, I just want to say thank you to that listener. Please reach out to us. We'd actually love to know your gender, your identity. If you're a human or dog, we'd really love to know. Anyways, let's dive into today's episode. So like I said, last episode, Raghan and I have both picked a niche Palestinian tradition, something that we've been really interested in for a while and just haven't kind of had the time to research it and look into it. And we dedicated a week or so to thoroughly research these two topics by looking online and articles and all that stuff, but also speaking to Palestinians, in particular Palestinian women. I have spoken to my mom and I've spoken to my aunt, and so has Raghat. Raghat even had a conversation with my mom for an hour on the phone. So we have come prepared for our research project. So Ragat, you begin. Tell us about the tradition that you have chosen to speak about today.
Okay. So the thing that I picked, it might seem boring at first, but I think it's rather interesting the more you kind of get into it. I picked the Palestinian thob, which is a traditional dress worn by Palestinian women. And it actually has so much context and history to it that I think most people don't actually realize. And the main reason why I picked it was I remember being at like a Palestinian event with my mom and her friends, and my mom's friend has a really good eye. She's able to pinpoint exactly what thob some random girl is wearing and tell me what city it's from. And I think that's a really unique skill to have and to carry on, because if we don't carry on these traditions, who will? It's going to die out if we don't pass it on. So I want to pass it on to you guys. So basically, I'm going to go through a couple cities. I'm not going to go through all the cities. I'm going to go through the important ones. And by important ones, I mean the ones related to me and a man, and maybe a couple random ones. So, to start, let's go through Al Quds, or Jerusalem. I'm not going to know the English names of all the cities, but I'm going to try my best. So, something to know about the woman from Al Quds. Al Quds. I don't know why I keep saying it so weird. Quds, Quds. Anyways, so the thing with Al Quds is that the women from there are kind of bougie. And you can kind of view them as like the housewives of Palestine, I guess you can say. It's really like cheesy to phrase it that way, but I mean, hey, like, have you guys seen the actual housewives of what, like New York and like LA and all that?
For sure, they have that ambiance because they're from the Jerusalem, honey. The Jerusalem.
So they're very extra. And because of that, they're always dressed to the nines. With their silk and expensive garments. So their fabric alone is something that other cities don't have. Like, I don't know how to put it delicately. I'm sorry, but she really is that woman. Can I say that, or is that like offensive?
It's okay. Ragd, we're allowed. We have hella wiggle room. We're Palestinians. We make fun of each other all the time.
We can get away with it. Anyways, the next group is Janine and Tuba, and I wish I could tell you the English names, but I just don't know. We love these women. They're great. They keep our country thriving. They pick our grapes, they pick our olives, and they plant and garden. And they can't be doing all this work in a gown, as you can imagine, especially like a traditional thob. That shit's heavy, man. And so you got some light thobs, some white thobs, things to keep them cool. None of this bellowing arms that you would find at the tip of a pirate ship or anything like that.
Hold on. You're telling me these ladies, first of all, light and white. Great. This is already a very suspicious sounding advertisement. Imagine going up to some ladies in Janine who are about to tackle a field of olive trees. Trust me, I have picked olives almost my entire life in Jordan. It is no easy feat. And you go up to them and go, ladies, what are we wearing? What are we wearing, ladies? Light and white thobs? Oh, okay. It is quite funny, but yeah, I'm sure they actually really cared about how they looked. While they were still farmers, they still had the right to be practical but beautiful.
Exactly. You know, the white kind of keeps the sun from absorbing and running down their backs as they're picking their olives, and the arms don't get in the way. But the dress itself is actually free flowing, because I can only imagine how annoying it must be. It's like, imagine running through the woods and like you're in a huge dress and shit, it just keeps getting stuck in there. Nobody wants that. So they've thought ahead. And one thing you should know about these women is that they don't really incorporate too much tatriz. Tatriz meaning design, or like the traditional pattern you can find on a Palestinian dress. The reason for that is tatriz itself is very heavy because it's just all added thread. So the more thread there is, the heavier and hotter it's going to be. Therefore, easy breezy. Next.
Misra said tatriz, all soft. Well, I say tatriz. It's not tatriz. What the hell's a tatriz? Tatriz, Tatrez. Missing the tatriz. Tatriz, اسمه tatriz.
You mean that tree over there?
Not this. That was an awful joke. Apologize, Ragad. Please apologize for the Palestinian people.
I'm so sorry to ever call your tatriz those trees. Moving on to Al Khalil. And this one has specific sentiment to Aman because she is not really from there, but close enough, I guess.
No, I wish. If we were actually from Al Khalil, we'd be much more posh. I'm afraid we're from a village on the outskirts of Al Khalil called Dawaime. It's been massacred. Never mind that. Look into it later. The massacre is not on theme with what we're doing here. But I think my mom, when she was talking about it, she said a lot of like the villages on the outskirts of a lot of big cities actually dress quite similarly. But I would reckon that, I mean, tell me about what people wear in Khalil or Hebron, and I would love to see if it like matches what we wear because I know what we wear.
Great. So your city really said Mother Nature. You guys got that boho aesthetic, and you got the leaves, you got the flowers, you got the grapes, just pretty much everything the surroundings. Because I'm assuming Al Khalil is more of a naturey region.
And it's not near any bodies of water. So then, yeah, you would right. It'd probably be like forestry, right? Or like bushery. You would not see, it wouldn't be inspired by like fish or like, anything with the sea. It would not be like Mediterranean at all.
Also, like Canada, it can get quite cold in Khalil, and because of that, their garments are fairly heavy. So you're going to find a lot of tatris. And like I said before, tatris is heavy. It's a lot of thread adding on to the weight. So, they got that going for them. Also, they got a fancy hat that I learned from Aman's mom. It's called the wagaya, and it's cute, like it's a little top hat, and the girls would braid their hair and intertwine it with the wagaya into like a little cinnamon roll, and there's a little necklace that comes from under their chinny chin, and and there's a little locket sometimes that is attached to that silver necklace. I don't know, it has like a picture of something or someone on it. I hope it's someone important and not just a random figurehead. But
I think a lot of Palestinians, we have like we call them lirat, and it basically means like golden coins or silver coins. So my mom says that in my area, people were too poor to have gold, so they would have silver coins, and it would be like literally a coin. It would have like I'm guessing back in the day it had like Ottomans on it because of the Ottoman Empire influence. So they were literally like silver coins that were made into jewelry, and we still have them. I have a gold set that my mom bought me. So yeah, that was very much, it's still our thing. We still do that, but now we have gold, honey, and we moved up the ladder. We don't live in our country anymore, but we can still buy the jewelry.
wow, I got no money. After all this, I'm just just sad. So, remember how I said white is light? They are more of a dark green aesthetic here in Al Khalil. And again, I learned that from Aman's mom. And I'm assuming it's just getting inspiration from their forest. Or I guess, I don't know why in my head, I'm thinking you guys are living in this like little fairy town of just greenery and just jungle vibes. I know that's nothing like it, but that's what I'm envisioning.
I mean, it would have been cute, but damn, it's dry as hell up in Khalil. It's hella dry. Honey, it's all zaytun. It's all olives. Like, it's the only thing that can survive the harsh summers and then the sometimes harsh winters. I think not anymore due to climate change. But definitely, yeah, but I like your vision of us being like really whimsical. I don't think Khalili are whimsical. We're known to be like cheap and difficult, so that's not the stereotype. But I like what you're doing with it.
It's my little Western take on it. Me being a whitewashed little Palestinian, just thinking all the fairies living in Khalil. Also, I want to share with you guys a word I learned called adik. I'm sorry for the harshness of it, but adik means branch. And these branches are actually shown in the pattern on their thobs, and it could be of literally anything, but specifically in Khalil, there's arik al-batta, which is the duck. They have ducks on their thobs, which is so cute. They have arik al-hayya, which is bad vibes. I don't know why you guys would ever have that on. And lastly,
you didn't say what hayya is in English. How are people supposed to know? You're so presumptuous. Arik al-hayya means snake, the snake pattern, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So bad vibes, and arik al-ward, which is the flower. And, it's cute, it's delicate, and, good for you guys. I'm glad. Moving on to Ramallah, they're kind of boring. They give off those engineer vibes, and not in a good way. There's nothing special. I'm so sorry to our friends who are in engineering, but it's all geometric and math, and they just got those, just shapes and lines and stuff. Nothing too great. I mean, if you're from Ramallah, I'm sorry. That's just my personal take. I was at least told that the thob is of a beige color, so I guess it's not all drab. And here's a nice thing about Ramallah. There's Christians there. Not to sound like I'm pointing out in a tour or something like that, but the reason I'm bringing up Christians is that this is such a weird segue. They have the Christmas trees on their thobs, or like the evergreen tree. They also have their traditional stars. I think they're traditional. I'm sorry if I'm misunderstanding, but they do have stars on their thobs as well, which I'm assuming is part of the Christian identity. Let me know. What else? Oh yeah. Also,
I'm sorry, I still can't get over the. Oh look, there's Christian there. Children, look over here. Here are the Christian Palestinians who nobody ever talks about whenever we're talking about Palestine. Please talk about the Christians. There are really high numbers of them, and they are also being prosecuted. Shout out to all my Christian Palestinians, not just the Muslims. And this is shade towards the Muslims who think that Palestine is a Muslim struggle. It is not. It is a Palestinian struggle, period.
Who's been saying that? Everybody I know has been saying it's an everybody struggle.
It's the people, sorry, like I don't mean to be shady, but it's a lot of like the young influencers. The young Arab influencers, they talk about Palestine like it's a Muslim situation, and it's just really not. Please stop.
Now to give you guys what you've all been waiting for, Yafa and their thobs is unlike no other. Oh, I feel like I already overhyped it. Basically, we have our black and white thobs and our white thobs. So here's the thing. Nowadays, you wear your white thob as your white wedding dress, and you wear your black thob as your henna dress. So your henna is basically, it's more of a bridal party, bridal shower before the big wedding, and you get like all hennaed up. So that's modern times now, but back then, the woman of Yafa would wear the white thobs during the summertime. And like I said, light and white. Make that your theme. And it's just to accommodate the weather, right? Like if it's hot out, why would you wear anything but that? And then for the black thobs, they actually wore it during the shitwiya, or like the winter time. So it keeps them nice and warm. But yeah, I mean, we got some nice titties as well. Also, here's a nice thing about Yafa. Actually, I don't think it's too great. We were colonized like multiple times, but we have the the Ottoman Empire influencing our dress and our dress code. So women, at least from the heavily influenced areas, would wear pants. And a lot of our patterns were very similar to the Turkish colonizers. Can I say that? To the Turkish invaders, to the Turkish, to the Turkish people.
Not this again. Do you guys remember in a few episodes ago where Rara said, that guy was a redneck? Oh, I can't say that's not PC. That guy was a hick. He was a dirty hick. This is what you just did again. You keep doing that.
Also, I forgot to mention, they got a little tarbouche, which is, do you remember in Aladdin, the monkey? He's wearing a tarbouche. It's a little red hat, and it's so cute. It's just, imagine like a little tiny hat on a grown man. It's a vibe.
Yeah, Abu was wearing a tarbouche. That's right. I totally forgot. It's funny because whenever I see men wearing tarbouche, because like the Syrians also wear tarbouche, and I'm pretty sure some Lebanese areas were also heavily influenced by the Ottoman Empire, also wore tarbouche. And my whole thing with it is, guys, it looks like a cylinder. Like it's just this cylinder red block with a little little puffy thing at the top, right? And my thing is I'm like, how did it balance? Did they tuck their heads in the cylinder, or did it just sit on top of their head? These are all questions that we have to ask our grandfathers.
I mean, I'm thinking something that small fitting into the center of gravity and, gaining equilibrium in the center of your massive head, it must hold some sort of weight.
Perhaps, yes, I guess.
Perhaps, quite, yes.
Anyways.
So, where was I? Oh yeah, also, last cool fact. Remember how I was talking about, I learned the word arik, and that means branch. So, I mentioned in Khalil, they have their own specific branch patterns, whereas for us, we have arik al-burtaqal, which is oranges. because Jaffa is known for their oranges, not a product of Israel. Thank you.
Period.
Okay, so, ooh, you know who's also pretty cool? I'm gonna butcher this Arabi name, but Arihan? Jericho?
Jericho? Ariha.
Ariha.
Yeah, Ariha.
Okay, so here's the thing about Ariha. I'm thinking, like, for me, when I envision it, I'm envisioning, like, the Sahara Desert, and, like, well, here's the thing. Okay, she just made a face at me. Here's the thing. It's really hot where they're from, and their clothing is very similar to, like, a traditional abaya. Abaya is more like, I'm sure, like, if you've ever seen a Muslim in public, there are those that wear, like, a long black cloak. So in Ariha, the women there, they wear very similar to the abaya, but it's more like in a lot of layers, and there's not that much tatris to it, but it does, give them a little bit of flexibility when they're walking. So here's the thing that I think is a common misconception, and it might kind of contradict everything that I said earlier. But, for the longest time, you've been told that black attracts sun and white reflects sun. And when it's hot outside, you always want to wear lighter colors. But for some reason, the women here are dressed in all black. Why is that? I actually learned this in my HK class. And in his exact words were like abaya and the desert. It was really cool, like, because it's something that Bedouins do, right? So this is a cool little science fact called convection. What ends up happening is that hot air rises. And when you have looser clothing, the hot air is able to come out through the gaps. And even though the black garment is absorbing the sun, it's, with all the layers, doesn't allow it to actually touch your skin. And the material itself should be light enough where it's wicking away the sweat, because that's how you cool down. You cool down by actually having the sweat evaporate from your skin. Otherwise, like, I know a lot of people would be like, well, why don't you just walk naked in the desert? Because, first of all, blisters, ouch. Second of all, you don't have anything wiping off the sweat, which gives you that cooling feeling. So they were way ahead of their time. They were like, they were making some good choices back then.
That's so cool. I had no idea. Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah. Also, keep in mind that people in Khalil, I keep referring back to it because there's just so much information for some reason, they can't wear these type of garments because it is colder up there compared to Ariha, and it might even like snow in some areas. I heard. I guess you guys get a winter. That's kind of cool, I guess. And yeah, that kind of thob would just not sustain them. So bear in mind, every thob is specifically created for the region that it is from. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. You can't wear one city's thob over the other. Otherwise, you might freeze to death or you might overheat. Cool. Lastly, actually, no, this is like second to last, but it is my other city. My mom is from Gaza. With Gaza, their thob is called Il Jannah wal Nar, and that basically means heaven and hell. Why, you may ask? Well, it's the colors that are actually found in the thob themselves. So it has those dark, rich green elements associated with heaven, while it also has that dark burgundy red that you would associate with hell. So that's how it got its name. Also, we got a little mermaid situation going on in my city. Our city is basically along the sea, so we have a huge body of water next to us, and because of that, we gain a lot of inspiration from it. Meaning that the coral reefs that you might find deep underwater, like when you're scuba diving, that is actually shown in our patterns, and not just in the color of it, but also the actual plants and the creatures and the life down under the water. It shows up in our stitch work, so I thought that was pretty cool. That's pretty much all I gotta say, but I mean, ours is kind of exotic compared to all the other ones. Lastly, okay, I'm sorry if I bored you guys. I try to make this as fun as possible, okay? Do you know how fun it is just reading off a list of cities and their thobs, okay? I'm trying my best here. Lastly, Beit Lahem. I ended strong, okay? So you're welcome, Beit Lahem. Their thobs are called Il Thob al Maliki, and basically that translates to royalty.
No, the royal thob, the royal dress.
Yes, precisely. So here's the thing: the bride wears another fancy hat that also has gold coins, and it's heavy and it's thick, and they got money. I'm about to use a word here: She mumayyiz. Did I write that? Did I say that right?
Yeah, that was so cute. That's so cute. Ishumayas means something unique. They're really
They
unique.
really are. Thing is, though, it's only worn by the bride. So, I mean, their regular everyday thobs aren't as, as fancy. It's kind of actually dull compared to the rest of the thobs out there. But, at least they have something nice to themselves.
I really quite like your your heavy criticism of Thobes. I didn't know. Were you investing? What's going on?
My investments right now are not doing too great. So if you guys actually know of any good companies to invest some shares in, please let me know.
This is not what this is about. Get out of here with your agenda. What the hell?
I do want to make a note, though, as beautiful our traditions are, and of how unique they are to Palestinians and our land, they are being stolen. Among other things, right? Like, not only is our cuisine stolen, our kufia stolen, our land stolen, even our thobs are nothing sacred, basically, okay? So our identity is constantly being stolen. There was a film festival where this Israeli prime minister showed up, and she showed up in a thob, and you can only imagine the audacity of them claiming that it has this historical depth to them, right?
The audacity of like wearing the traditional dress of the people you're colonizing.
Exactly. So among that, there's also Israeli flight attendants working for Israeli airlines that are wearing our Palestinian dresses. And you also see this in their fashion shows and their models wearing, again, like our kufiyas, our thobs, like claiming it as their own when we've had like hundreds of years worth of cultivating our tradition just stolen like that. It's really unfortunate, actually.
Yeah, we had this discussion frequently about the stealing of culture and traditions by colonizers, and we see them do this with food, with words, even cuss words. Our Arabic cuss words have been stolen by like Israeli pop culture. It's very strange, but yeah, the thob that definitely hurts because the thob is so close to our heart. Actually, Ragad sent me messages while she was doing her research. She really got into it. I'm actually really proud of you. And she was talking about how it felt really emotional to reconnect because all this information was so new to her, and a lot of it's new to me as well. Like I know about our thob, I'm aware of that, but you taught me so much. And yeah, and again, so many of these traditions are rooted into womanhood.
Again, this is like women are the backbone of our country. And I think we should recognize that the amount of work it goes into making a thob. By the way, it can take up to a year to make a nice, decent, customized thob, and they can cost like in the thousands. Anyways, regardless, I did want to bring attention. I'm just going to mention this really quick. There is a Palestinian refugee camp in Jordan, and there are women that basically sell these kits on how to learn how to do tatriz at home, and they sell internationally. So we are going to leave a link in our bio, and all the proceeds go to these women because, they're selling a product, and I think it would be a really great initiative to support. So I just wanted to mention that.
And actually, to go along with that, Palestinian women in refugee camps in Jordan, there are multiple, are where my mom gets all of her thwab done. My thob is done there too. So if somebody resides, actually, Jordan has tons of great Palestinian female initiatives for women, female initiatives for women. If anybody's interested in getting their thob done by some of these wonderful, hardworking ladies in some of these refugee camps, please DM me personally. I will send you their contact information because, I mean, we know these people. These women have been doing all our thobs. So yeah, Ragad, thank you so much for doing that. That's so cool.
Of course. Yeah. Do they ship internationally to these women?
No!
Damn it!
No, it's such an experience. You go to their house and they measure you and they call you skinny because that's what happened to me. Every time I'd go, she's like, "Did you lose weight?" And I'm like, "No, ma'am." She's like, "Why don't your parents feed you?" I'm like, "Ma'am, stop yelling at me." No, but she was really cool. And we'd sit down and we'd eat and we'd talk together, and then she would make your thobe in front of you while gossiping. I love them. I love Palestinian women.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm glad you got to experience that.
Yeah. So I guess now that she's done finally. By the way, you guys, this episode was supposed to be like half for me, half for Ragad. Okay, so now that Ragad's 40-minute lecture is done, I can finally start my topic, which I think is equally interesting, if not more so, because it's even more niche. I'm going to talk about washim, or deg, which is traditional feminine tattooing, which is a Middle Eastern tradition, not just Palestinian, and also North African. But we're going to focus about Palestinian tattooing today. So isn't that exciting? So first of all, I know what y'all are thinking. Y'all are thinking, at least for most of the sects in Islam, tattoos are seen as forbidden. Now, an interesting conversation that I had with my grandmother in regards to her tattoos, that she said, she's like, we were ignorant to that. They were ignorant to that fact that their religion specifically forbids tattooing. Of course, you can still do what the hell you want, but of course that is generally the believed rule. But I remember telling her, I was like, I'm so glad you didn't know, because this is a tradition that's dying. And if Palestinians are getting tattoos, please get traditional tattoos and keep them alive, even though I guess, as I will explain them, they're difficult to have. So I will begin by kind of explaining how I came about knowing about DEG. So I remember when I was very young, I think I was maybe like 5 or 6. I remember running my fingers across my grandma's like age-worn tattooed skin. And I remember looking at it and being like, Jidde, why do you have these green little symbols? What the hell are they? And she's like, oh man, it's called deg. So that's what a lot of Palestinian women call it, a deg. So that's what she called like the decorative patterns. And she told me that she's like, oh, all the young girls in her Palestinian village had received like traditional similar ink when they were young, and that everybody used to do it. And I'm like, okay, that's hella cool. And I remember asking her, I was like, okay, what does this mean? And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, what about this? She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, what about this? And she's like, I forgot. So she had a bunch of them and she didn't remember half of them. My grandma had them on her arms, legs, and feet. And I think maybe one on her neck, but she doesn't have any facial ones. And that's interesting because my like cousin's grandma had tons of facial ones, which are really cool. So let me get into it, guys. So obviously, before the catastrophe happened, before we were expelled, the women of Palestinian tribes and villages would usually visit the local Roma tribes. So the Roma tribes would pitch their tents. They would travel obviously throughout Palestine, and wherever they would stay, they would have part of their, I guess, like a job, a hustle that they would have is they would sketch symbols, tattoos onto the faces and limbs of Palestinian women. So then, imagine, let's call you Samira, okay? Your name is Samira, and Samira is a Palestinian girl, and she's like 14 years old, and Miss Thing is coming about the world. And she is excited because she's heard that there's a new Robo tribe in town. And she's like, okay. So Samira goes with her homie, Abir, right? It's Abir and Samira. And they're walking down the street, straight up vibing. First of all, you would wait in line because, it was like a hot business. You know what I mean? It wasn't, people would wait for these Robo tribes to show up. So then you would sit down and they would use charcoal to sketch the pattern, the small symbols, wherever. And then they would use this strong herb, and it was called enbit dhib. Translates literally to the grape of the wolf, which is kind of cool. And it would be like manually crushed and squashed until like a green liquid was produced. A really vivid, kind of rich green would come from this herb, right? So then they have sketched their little sketches with the charcoal. It was their outline. And they would get sterilized needles, a bunch. It would be like 7. And they would dip it in the green liquid. And then they would ink the previously sketched patterns, which were done with charcoal, right? And it was a very painful process, I'm sure. You just had to deal with it. One of the articles that I read about this, and it talked about like, it was like a POV kind of situation. And it was, this woman was interviewing like a grandma who remembers this happening to her. And she said that she remembers the pain and the Roma woman saying, like, beauty is pain. And I laughed because I'm like, I can't believe that this is like, it's not just a saying in English. It transcends all cultures, that beauty generally is painful. And women, for some reason, have always had to go through pain for the sake of beauty. So according to Palestinian women, each and every pattern and sketch symbolizes like a particular meaning. So for example, if you sketch a small fish, and it's literally like the most basic ass looking fish, it would usually be tattooed on the face, and it would provide those who have it with good fortune and fertility. So if you're trying to have face, first of all, I remember reading that and being like, as if Palestinians need any luck with having children. All y'all do is have kids. That's all that Arabs do. I'm like, you don't need luck, honey.
You know what we need luck in? We need luck in liberating our land. Put on all the fish. Also, the image I have is just like a nice little fish tattoo drop at the corner of your eye. The minute you mentioned facial tats, I'm like, first of all, I love that they were so advanced in their society, because facial tats here won't get you any sort of job. At least I don't think it would. I don't know. Maybe public opinion has changed.
Yeah, typically speaking, now face tattoos are frowned upon, but not everywhere. I'll get into it later about, for example, like in New Zealand, the Maui people, they also have traditional tattoos and they tattoo their entire faces, and it's they were finally able to cross that stupid weird societal norm of like facial tattoos being inappropriate. They have transcended all of that, and they have facial tattoos and have perfectly normal jobs. I love it. Anyways, so yeah, so for example, so we talked about the small fish, and there's also like certain patterns of lines and dots, which would be etched like on the lower lip or the chin to emphasize the features. Some would have really thin lines tattooed on the sides of the lips to create like an illusion of an like eternal smile. So they would literally draw on like laugh lines and with really thin lines of tattoos.
Oh, wait, that sounds so creepy. It sounds like those like marionette puppets.
I guess you would, yeah. I can understand where this is coming from. This is very hard to visualize, so we're definitely gonna post some pictures on our Instagram. First of all, most of these women are villagers. They were working day and night. There's nothing to smile about. So of course they would tattoo it. There's no reason for them to have genuine smiles. Jesus, they were working them to death.
Haram.
Anyway, haram indeed. So those are some examples. So washim or deg or negish, those are all names that refer to the same thing, which is traditional tattoos. And women from all over the Middle East, as well as Amazigh, like the Amazigh women of North Africa, have been tattooing for generations. And what's interesting is when I looked, first of all, into research, I want to ask my mom, I'm like, why do we do it? And it's just straight up beauty. There is no other reason. It's not like with the Maui people, their tattoos are so much deeper than just patterns and etches. But for us, it really is just an aesthetic. Isn't that really interesting? Like it just was to emphasize beauty. And it kind of was sometimes it would like show kinship to one's tribe. So for example, with the Amazigh, actually, it kind of like was that, right? So if you would have like a certain pattern of tattoos, it meant that you belong to that tribe. But that's more of a North African thing. I don't think we did that as much. But it mostly just demonstrated like self-care and a woman's strength, and like this all it was. It's not as like deep as you would think, but what's so important about deg, and I'm gonna call it deg because that's what my grandmother called it, is that it was so feminine. It was for women. It was something that was a women's space, and that was something that I really kind of loved. Is that you wouldn't find actually funny enough in Amazigh there was a phase where men would get tattooed, but it's always been in the Middle East and North Africa. It's been mostly a women's thing. It's been a tradition passed by women, and that's why it's so important. And the same thing with the thob is it may be aesthetic, but because of the history of these traditions, that's where their importance lies, I think. And even though most of the population of Palestinians wouldn't get tattoos, I hope that those who would consider looking to traditional tattoos just so they wouldn't die. And of course, we're not going to do like the traditional way because it's incredibly painful. It's kind of like, I forgot what the name, I'm sure somebody will tell me. There's traditional Thai tattooing that's very similar. I don't know if you ever saw Angelina Jolie's back, but she has this beautiful tiger that she got done in Thailand. And it's done in like a traditional way. In the mountains, you would go and they would etch it. And it's extraordinarily painful. And this is kind of has the same kind of pain angle to it, is that it shows that a woman's strong enough to have all these tattoos. And yeah, it would start at like age 12. And you would just get, every time a Roma tribe would go by, you would just go and get another tattoo. When you're older, people always make fun of tattoos and they say, how would that look when you're older? And I will post pictures of Palestinian grandmothers, and I don't care what anybody says, it's beautiful. God, it's so beautiful to look at. It's so unique. And the thing about our tattoos is because of that herb, the thib, they end up being like bluish. So they slowly go from blackish to like greenish to bluish the older you get. And they're really, really cool. I don't know. And if I consider getting tattoos, I would definitely look into getting some traditional Palestinian tattoos. Yeah, that's it.
I was just gonna say, I so wish I lived during the time where they didn't know that tattoos were haram. I would have loved to get something like that, but I got my rules.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think about it sometimes. I'm like, screw it. Sometimes, maybe one day I'll just snap and I'll go get my face tatted. And what about it? What are you guys gonna do about it? The whole point of this episode, before we conclude, is we wanted to take some time separately, Raga and I, to research an aspect of what it means to be Palestinian that isn't about war, that's not about our pain and our death. And that's why we hope that, us speaking about this will inspire some of maybe our fellow Palestinians, and if not our fellow Palestinians or allies, into researching your local Palestinian artist and being interested in Palestinian fashion or Palestinian sculpting or Palestinian poetry, whatever it may be. Look how dynamic we are within the one country from each city. So imagine how much more there is to explore. And people never do. And it really upsets me.
I do want to say though, as much as I made fun of everyone's thobs and the cities that they were created in, I have so much appreciation for the amount of work and the time and the effort that these women put into making these thobs. It's truly an art form, and I was just having a little bit of fun with it, but like all the power to these women.
Yeah, and as a little treat, because this episode is really, really extra special, Raghan and I are actually going to take some small videos of us putting on the traditional tattoos using like maybe kohol, like maybe using eyeliner. And we're going to post those pictures and these videos on our social media accounts. So please make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok under Expired Musings. Please don't forget. And I think that's it from us, the two Palestinian gals. Palestinian gals, baby. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.